Hello and welcome to the ItalianCookingClass.com. My name is Giuseppe, as some of you may already know. What we're doing today is we're going to do a nice Italian pizza base. Now, Italian pizza bases are really thin and they're not thick. A focaccia is different to a pizza base, and some people make thick pizza bases similar to a focaccia. My mother does that, makes a wonderful thing, but I like them thin. Thin and crispy actually is what I like with my pizza bases, and the reason for that is because they hold their shape when you go to eat them, firstly, and secondly, you don't need a lot of topping to actually get a lot of flavour, and you can actually taste the individual flavours when there's not too much topping and the base is quite thin and crispy. And secondly is they're far more healthy because there's not so much calories that you're actually consuming, and you can connect to them a lot better too because they're more enjoyable. You know, you can have a lot more with a nice glass of wine or a beer, whatever you like. The thing is too that when they're thinner, again, you can actually taste more of the topping with, like a cracker, you know, instead of a lot of bread with some topping, and that's what ultimately is when you get pizza that's actually risen. But hey, you know, everybody's totally correct in what they like, so if you like a thick pizza base, please, by all means, and you let it rise, by all means do that, because that is perfectly okay. But I'm going to show you a thin one. You can use, you can do this by hand. All you've got to do is make a mound of flour in the middle of the bench and put all the ingredients inside of it. But we're going to do it all in the mixer because it's nice and easy. That's what we're, you know, automation of things. But anyway, so it's a cup of warm water, and it does have to be warm so that the actual dry yeast, we do use dry yeast, actually does soften and actually starts the fermentation process. We'll put it in there like that. Now I've got a whiskey, and the reason for the whiskey is to actually help the yeast dissolve in the water, because it is important to have the water in first. Never put the dried ingredient first and the liquid on top. Always the liquid first and the dried ingredient on top, so that you can actually dissolve it nicely with a whisk. And a whisk is the best thing for it. If you have a small whisk, it's even better. I've got one in my tool bag. I didn't go and get it just to save the exercise. I did some this morning. But so yeah, and as you can see in there, it has dissolved nicely, instead of it actually sitting on top as sometimes it does. Some of it's coming to the surface now, but most of it has dissolved, and you just give it another little bit of a shake, or a stir I should say, and that will allow it to dissolve nicely. Now some people allow that even to ferment some more, and they say you've got to let it sit next to somewhere warm so it starts. I believe it will start, whether it's in there or there, it's going to start. The fermentation process has already started, and at what point you want it to actually happen, as far as it in there or in there, doesn't really matter. To me, I just do it all, and it doesn't allow the dough to prove too much if you allow it not to actually start fermenting in there and you put it straight in there, because what happens is that when it's working against a bit more resistance, instead of just working in the water, it's working against the dough as well. It's going to take a little bit longer to actually ferment. That's all it is. That's all that really happens. So for my purpose of the exercise, I'd rather do this. So we're going to do 1.5 cups of flour, just nice and leveled like that. It's already been sieved, straight in there. We've got the measure on the side there, there's the half, fantastic. Once we've got it all mixed as well, then we're going to put it out on the bench top and knead it some more. Pinch of salt. Salt always is a good catalyst to extract the flavours, as always mentioned. A tablespoon of olive oil, good Italian tablespoon. We'll drop that down in there like that. And then we're going to add the water. Don't add all the water, don't add all the cup of water, just see how you go, you know. We'll go about half to start off with, a bit over half there, and we'll see what it's like. Okay, as you can see there, we're actually allowing that flour and the oil and all the condiments to amalgamate together. You see the actual mixer picking up all those leftovers around the side. There's still a lot of moisture in there, you know, as you can see it. It's quite nice, and you do want to have a nice soft dough when you're making pizza. I like it to be nice and soft, more so than too dry. And that looks like it's pretty good to me. That's got a lot of moisture in that there. We'll just let that mix up. See how it's picking up around the edges, all the dry stuff that was there before? Look how wet it is. It's actually starting to stick to the bottom of that now. And what will happen is as we work it, it'll dry up and it'll firm up as well. If we need to add a little bit more water, we can. Or a little bit more flour, we can. It's important to always add less because you can always add more, then take it out. So it's easier to add a little bit less and then add more to it as we're going along of each thing. Otherwise the whole recipe changes. Okay, we're going to pull it out now and we'll start kneading it on the bench. Now we're going to knead it out on the bench here. I just put a little bit of flour on the bench just so that it doesn't stick. So it's quite sticky, so that's all good. We're going to put some flour, and that flour will be all picked up in the actual dough as we're kneading it. Just put a little bit through my fingers just to keep the whole thing a little bit easier and nicer and less sticky. So it is a quite soft dough. Some people would say, well, that's really soft, but that's how I like it, and it does come out to be a beautiful, beautiful mix. And what happens is too that it actually is a lot easier to roll out when we're actually rolling it out for the bases. Very similar, nice, to make a nice bread mix out of this as well. Just change a little bit of the flour components, the quantities, but that would work nicely. So we'll just roll that a little bit more, and it's good to roll it for about 10 minutes, really breaking it and getting those glutens to mash together nicely. And the idea of that is just so it just becomes a little bit firmer, the dough itself, when it bakes. So just pull it apart, and no right and wrong, and this is all about connecting with the food, ladies and gentlemen. It's just connection, you've got to get in there. No gloves. You ever see any real restaurant places and real reality TV cook shows that they have gloves on? No, because they can't connect with the food. So you're just rolling the corners back in on itself and pushing them through. That way it's all binding all the fibres of the flour and all the gluten more together. Bang, it's made a bit of a mess. A little bit more flour there as well. It's always good on steel or stone because it's nice temperature and not as porous as timber. Well, certainly steel isn't as porous as anything really. It's the least porous of all, but certainly stone is quite porous, but nothing like timber. And timber, too much bacteria grows in it if not cleaned properly. Okay, so we've kneaded about 10 minutes now, and what we'll do is we'll just let it sit in some Glad wrap for about 5-10 minutes max. Some will let it sit in a bowl and cover it with Glad wrap so it actually proves and rises, but like I said, I don't want it to rise too much at all. It'll rise in the oven after it's been rolled and it's been sitting in the oven, because it's got to cook for about 10-15 minutes anyway. So that in itself, because it's so thin, you'll get slight aeration inside the thing, so it'll be nice and crispy and not dense, and it'll cook through. And also when it's thin, it cooks through a lot better. You know, sometimes you get the topping, again with too much topping, it doesn't allow the top of the pizza cook, so it's got to be the right amount of topping with the right thickness of the base, and everything will just cook through nicely. So as you can see there, just a beautiful soft dough, and it's really smooth, and it's just lovely and soft. So we'll just wrap that for about 5 to 10 minutes, and I'll get this organised, and we'll get the other utensils ready to roll it out. We've actually let that sit for a bit, and it's actually started to rise a small amount, which is fine. It's funny, see, it's sticky, but it's all as one, you know, and that's because it's really beautiful, and really the yeast is really, you know, working and taking effect. So I'll put a little bit of flour there. This is actually enough for 2 pizzas, the recipe there itself, so that's how thin it is. That's how thin I like the pizzas themselves. Something that I should have mentioned before as well, when you make it, it is only just plain flour. I find a durum wheat flour is quite heavy, and it doesn't give you the nice fluffiness because it is thin as well. So if you can get a very well ground Italian 00 flour, that really makes quite a difference. A very soft, tender grain. You can either, you know, spread it out with your hand if you like. You know, and also something else, if you want to let it prove and let it rise, that's perfectly okay. That's entirely your own preference. And as a suggestion, if you're sort of in a bit of a hurry and want it to do it sort of in an hour or so, just put the oven on about 50 degrees and stick it in there with a steel bowl, and that will actually rise nicely. It'll prove just beautifully. And then just pull them out and make up the balls that you require to make your pizzas. So that's the way to do it if you don't want to leave it out, you know, or if it's too cold, if you're doing it in winter, you know, stick them in somewhere warm to actually make it rise nicely. So as you can see, this is really quite soft and pliable, and the work that flour does with water is just amazing. I find it totally encapsulating as far as it, just the science of it, the chemistry. I just find it fascinating. That's the word. It's just beautiful. I love it so much. Bread and pastries and all sorts of things. See how white that is? See how much that's turned out? And that is just so thin. And if you can have a look here how thick that is, or how thin that is with the camera zoom right in there, it is literally about 2 to 3 mil thick, and I love them, And then you can even flick them if you're able to. We'll just put that on there. It's a nice pizza tray ready to go. Like that. We'll just spread that out nice, and you could even use your hands like I said if you wanted to. There you go, beautiful. Bring it up if you like. Perfetto. That is a pizza base ready to go in the oven. Well, obviously first you can top it with some tomato. Always have tomato on the base of a pizza. Well, not always, but if you like, you can have it in pizza in bianco with some nice onions or roasted potatoes or something. But this is the base of a pizza. Cook it in there, get the oven as hot as you can. In about 8 to 10 minutes flat, you have a pizza that's cooked beautifully. Okay, thank you very much. Buon appetito, arrivederci from the ItalianCookingClass.com. This is Giuseppe. Thank you.